Why do people hate Neo artifacts as much as they do? And is it warranted? Let's go ahead and find out. Neo Artifacts is a turn-based strategy gacha game where you play as the curator. You command a team of artifactors with very descriptive names. Like, I'm not even kidding. Look at this right here. Eastern Han Dynasty brick with scene of salt production. Yeah, I'm not kidding. These are personified historical and cultural artifacts that are brought to life in a modern urban setting. It launched in China and had quite a bit of success, thus naturally they opted to expand their services to global, releasing on April 24th, 2026 to the exact opposite reception. We'll go ahead though and touch on that in just a moment. The narrative is an urban style tale featured on awakening artifactors and the mysteries that they carry from their artifact origins. As the curator, you investigate distortions that pop up in everyday city spots such as the suburbs, museums, commercial districts, all while uncovering each artifactor's personal history, their respective personality, and ties to the larger lore of how these relics influence time, reality, and power balances. It's honestly a very fascinating take, but its presentation leaves a lot to be desired. It is very poorly paced, it has no voice acting for the story, there are a plethora of localization issues leading to a lot of overall confusion. Many of my viewers while streaming it were under the impression that the game was AI translated, but this seemed worse. And while it doesn't feature a revolutionary plot, the artifact personification concept really does give it a lot of personality and flair. If only they didn't half-ass their translations. This is a grid-based tactical strategy RPG with turn-based combat that emphasizes individual character positioning, terrain advantages, elevation, and elemental and attribute advantages. Battles play out on detailed maps with chibi-style character models, and you build teams of artifactors whose relics grant unique skills, passives, synergies. It does encourage you to utilize the auto battle right from the very first stage, but the auto is, much like in a lot of gacha games, very unreliable for max rewards or more difficult content. There were numerous stages where I got 2 out of 3 stars merely because they couldn't fulfill the stage objectives, yet I completed the stage in like 3 turns or less. In multiple instances, actually like 2-shotting or 1-shotting every monster on the field. Again, the autoplay is highly unreliable, and even more so for difficult content. You'll often need to play manually, you'll need to issue commands, you'll need to manage movement on the grid, and then also adapt to enemy patterns or boss mechanics, especially bosses, as you're often forced into manual for end of chapter encounters. Progression is relatively freeform. You level up, you enhance skills and equipment, you cultivate bonds for power and story unlocks, and you experiment with various different team comps. There's a resource dispatch, there are mini games, and in global specifically, there is an auto PvP mode for ranking and rewards, which again, is something I'll touch on shortly. The art is genuinely beautiful. It has gorgeous hand-drawn character designs, a vibrant urban fantasy aesthetic, and it has a killer soundtrack. Voice acting includes a fantastic Japanese cast bringing the artifactors to life. If only the story had voice acting, it could have elevated the game so much, but I mean, I guess they just ran out of funding. Unfortunately, in spite of how good the game looks aesthetically, tutorials just blast you with dozens of absolutely wild character names that you'll never memorize, poor localization, terms, characters, and systems, then they just auto-skip you before you've actually finished reading them. Saying it was frustrating would be underselling how I felt about this game. The UI is confusing, the text scrolls slowly in cutscenes, and then the early hours felt like an absolute information overload. But outside of all this, what could have possibly made global players hate Neo artifacts as much as they do? The backlash has been intense. The Google Play Store rating is sitting at 1.7 stars as of writing this up, with many day one reviews calling this an instant skip. The main reason for that? Global shafting. The Chinese version was apparently quite generous and well received, but the global version introduced heavy changes that just feel predatory and disrespectful to international players. These include, but are not limited to, SSR rates being dropped from the roughly 2.5% in China to 1.6 to 1.8% globally, a change in what currency you use for limited banners that China never had, added a 50-50 pity system that was not in China that tweaked guarantees, a new elemental system that forces pulling recent units units for advantages, and they added auto PvP. China had no PvP whatsoever, which is horribly pay to win. The currency income and other systems were nerfed, and this is just a summary of the things that they changed. The devs evidently do not care at all about global. Instead, they see us as dollar signs, and it shows. The gacha is horribly stingy on global. There are low base rates, the 50-50 unlimited banners, a hard pity, the restrictions on ticket usage. It all makes it feel worse than most modern gacha games. And as I noted, China was reportedly much more free-to-play friendly with better rates and a spark-like system, making it much easier for players to attain the limited banner characters. Globally, you need a horde premium currency, be extremely disciplined, and skip most banners to stay competitive as a free-to-play player. And you know, as much as I know, that is pretty much impossible for most gacha gamers. This was made abundantly clear by players with Arknight's Enfield's gacha system and their guarantee. This right here is a case of being survivable if you're patient, but not generous. I wouldn't even say it's worth it. If you're a huge strategy or tactics fan like me, who falls in love with beautiful art or music or likes unique original themes, and you don't mind grid battles or hoarding for pulls rather than spending them on every cool new character, this is absolutely worth trying. The game is free, after all. The core gameplay loop and character designs are genuinely strong for what they are. But if you hate low gacha rates, if you hate power creep, if you hate confusing UIs, you hate global versions that feel deliberately nerfed compared to the original, you are definitely going to want to skip this. Typically, Reddit and social media tend to overreact when it comes to changes, but in this instance, no, genuinely, the severe community outrage is 110% justified, and there are better free-to-play friendly gacha games out there right now. I'd say you could download this for the visuals or the early story if you're absolutely curious, but I would also urge you temper your expectations on long-term enjoyment without spending. It had massive potential that global changes just seem to have kneecapped, and I just do not foresee this ever recovering. This is effectively another case of Black Beacon syndrome. A team with a lot of creative talent developing something truly unique and engaging for China, and then forgetting global deserves the same treatment. I hate to call an end of service this early in the game's release, but I'm calling it now. Neo Artifacts will struggle to make it 6 months before shutting down. I guarantee you this game right here will not live into 2027. I'm saving this quote right now, so later this year, when they ultimately write up a heartfelt message apologizing for milking players, global players specifically, out of millions of dollars and just letting us all down, I have a great video where I can just say, ha, I told you so. They don't call me the gacha prophet for nothing, baby. I call it as I see it. And Neo Artifacts, yeah, you're dead, buddy. Now let's go ahead here and break down my rating. Content 2 out of 10. There is so little to do, bro. Difficulty 2 out of 10. Artificial difficulty inflation to sell characters is just stupid. Free-to-play friendliness 2 out of 10. It used to be in China, but it's not in global. Gameplay 7 out of 10. It's honestly pretty fun. I love games like Alchemy Stars. Graphics 8 out of 10. They are stunning. The character models, the backdrops, even the chibi character models look good. Sound 7 out of 10. It's pretty good. The music and all. Story 1 out of 10. It's so damn bad, dude. But that's largely due to the localization, I think. Voice acting 7 out of 10. The Japanese dub was honestly very good, but there was none into story. Massive L for them. World 2 out of 10. It was just lacking completely. Fun 4 out of 10. Honestly, I did have some fun when engaged with the game itself, but otherwise everything else just felt dead. Overall, I'd give this 42 degenerate waifus or 4.2 out of 10. The game had so much potential, man. Absolutely disappointed. I know you think that you just hit the end of the video, and technically, yeah, you have. And I know your first reaction is to close out of it at this juncture, but don't. No, instead, I urge you to take a moment here and click one of the videos on screen that are coming up in just a moment so you remain up to date with everything going on in the gacha genre. Trust me, you're not going to regret doing so. Stay flaccid.